President Biden is urging action from the Senate on gun reform measures already passed by the House. Democratic Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii joins us now. She is on the Senate Judiciary Committee, which held hearings on the issue this week. Senator, good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning to all of you.
I appreciate you being here. It's an important morning, and what we just laid out, I think, is the crux of the issue politically for those who support gun reform. Republican senators have a base that is very activist on the issue, and it does not appear you have the votes. Given that situation, do you think that President Biden should move forward with executive action to do what he can?
If he can take executive action to require universal background checks, I say go to it, Mr. President. But in the meantime, one would hope that we can act on at least requiring universal background checks and closing a 3-day background check loophole. I don't think that is outrageous gun legislation. We have more gun deaths and violence in our country than in any other advanced nation. And these kinds of mass shootings, it just occurs far too often in our country.
Senator, the other thing that makes the United States very unique on the global stage is the fact that we have in our Constitution this idea of an inherent right to access to firearms. Republican senators, your colleagues there in the Senate, are looking to defend that, not abridge it in any way, because their voters believe in that. The repercussions and side effects notwithstanding, what would you say to those voters? Because to move the senators, you're going to have to move them. If they should be listening this morning, what would you say to them?
Republican senators know that the constitutional right to own a gun is not unfettered, and the Supreme Court said so. So sensible gun legislation is something that does not go against that constitutional right to firearms. And none of us is saying that that Second Amendment right should be taken away. But this is what the Republicans are constantly pushing out, that the fear and scaring people that we are all about taking away guns. No, we are for gun safety laws.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, Senator, says he does not support the 2 House bills that President Biden is pushing. Have you spoken with him at all? Do you think his vote could swing on this?
I hope that Joe will change his mind, because there was a time when he worked on a bipartisan gun safety bill. And so I certainly hope that that he will recognize that we need to do more than what we have done, which is basically nothing after all these mass shootings. And I hope he recognizes the need. And there was a time when he did recognize the need for gun safety laws.
You know, your Republican colleagues have pushed back on this. What is your message to them?
We have way too much gun violence and killings in our country.
Yeah.
And there are things that we can do. And why should anyone be against universal background checks? What is the problem with that? And also closing a 3-day loophole so that you can't get a gun after 3 days of a background check is not completed, and suddenly you can own a gun. See, that is hardly what I call outrageous. And the fact is that the majority of Americans support this kind of legislation. It's just the Republicans who are totally out of step. They must be in thrall with the gun lobby.
Yeah,
and they are doing a tremendous disservice to Americans in their position.
More work to be done.
Yeah, more work to be done on that issue. I want to switch positions there to a different topic, the issue of diversity. The White House has announced that it will appoint an Asian American Pacific Islander liaison to increase representation in that community and voices from that community. You and Senator Duckworth have removed your position against approving straight white nominees for cabinet positions. In the meantime, as a result of that appointment, what more at this point do you think needs to be done on the diversity question?
The AAPI community, as well as me and others, have been advocating with this administration for more representation by AAPIs in both the cabinet as well as in senior level White House positions. So the naming of this person, who I conclude is someone who will have access to the president, to the vice president, to the cabinet, who will have substantive input on issues that impact our community. That is what I'm looking for, and it is a good step. I have had other discussions with a with the White House, and so I have concluded that they are going to do better, and I will work with them to make that happen.
Senator, you're co-sponsoring a bill that would condemn anti-Asian sentiment, among other things. What more needs to be done to stop this, and what exactly does your bill do?
And in the past, those bills haven't gotten very far.
Yeah.
My bill, which is the COVID hate crimes bill, and Grace Bang has introduced the companion bill in the House. It is a totally, in my view, non-controversial measure that requires the Attorney General to appoint a person to review these kinds of hate crimes all across the country, and to work with state and local law enforcement to make sure that the word gets out in these communities as to what constitutes a hate crime, how they can be reported. This is a collection of information so that we can have a national approach, because this is a national issue, these kinds of targeted hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And so that's what this bill does. It is hardly what I would call controversial. However, I have not been able to get a Republican to support it. And in fact, I don't hear very many Republicans getting up and condemning this kind of targeted attacks against AAPIs, to the point where the AAPIs have died from these attacks. And this is why our community is so mobilized and concerned. We need to do better.
Well, we'll keep our eyes out for movement on that bill you're co-sponsoring, as well as gun reform legislation. Senator Hirono, thank you very much.
Thank you.